Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hey, everybody. I'm the Bad Table.
Hello.
How we doing?
Oh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do? Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Pat Finn. I'm currently located in Portland, Oregon, and I do live looping music and music production.
Oh yeah. What got you started into music initially?
Probably my parents. My dad was always a huge fan of music and always said that he was gonna try and brainwash my sister and I into having good taste. And then my mom was a musician herself. She plays piano. And
okay.
Yeah.
Now, was your dad just a big fan of music then?
Yeah, he always said that he can't carry a tune in a bucket, right? But yeah, he always loved punk rock growing up, and he would play a lot of Irish folk music for us growing up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's cool. I guess that's a good duality to have. Was your mom pushing you towards music at all as a kid, or was she more just you guys do what you want?
She was definitely more, you guys do what you want. We had a piano in the house that she would break out from time to time, but yeah, they definitely pushed me to do bands, in middle school.
Okay. What instrument did you do for that?
What do you think I did?
I'm gonna, this is the answer I get more often than I'm prepared for, so I'm going with this one. I'm gonna say clarinet.
Clarinet? That was pretty close. I did saxophone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, that's the cooler one for sure.
I thought so.
Yeah. But weirdly enough, clarinet is the frequent answer. Fun fact. That's for all you at home, I guess. That's cool. How long did you do that for?
Probably 3 or 4 years, and then I had started playing guitar at the time when I was 10 or something, and I always gravitated to that more. So by the time I got into high school, I was like, I'm dropping the saxophone.
That's fair. It is a less spit-filled instrument for sure. Yeah, you don't have to clean that out.
Yeah.
Also, I guess it is a little bit cooler on the receiving side of things.
That's debatable. I do regret not.
See, now
through, right?
Now you would be crushing it if you were on saxophone. It has had such a cool resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to be in a band and be cool, you play the guitar.
Yeah.
Kind of thing really was prominent for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now saxophone is pretty rad. But getting back into it, when did you first move to more of the sound that you have now?
Yeah, I started getting into electronic music probably in high school. Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites came out, and Pretty Lights was kind of big at the time. Mm-hmm. So that really opened the door to electronic music, but I really didn't get into making it myself until probably college, because I was in a dorm room by myself, and I'm like, I want to play guitar all the time, and I don't have someone to be here with me, so I got a looper pedal and started practicing from there. So that's kind of what.
Now, what looper pedal do you use?
My first one, it was like the Boss 2-pedal.
Okay, so the RC300.
RC300.
RC30, sorry.
30,
yeah,
yes.
RC30, there we go.
And so I had that one for a long time. And then I got the RC505.
Yeah,
like
so the hand one with the circles instead of the foot pedals, which shout out to Mark Ripley for making that a real cool piece of equipment. Yeah.
But yeah, so I've had that for like almost 10 years now.
Hell yeah. I knew a guy when I was growing up, or like when I was like out of high school. I was like working at Guitar Center for a few years by this point. He had a pair of them.
Oh, side by side?
Yeah, so he would build one on the first one. Like he would build his like series of loops and then bank it over to the second one and then like pull parts out and make it like bank 2 on the second one.
Yeah,
and then build a whole new thing and like make it the third part and like jump back. But so he was like summing them up.
Like with his loop.
Yeah, like he was just like sub-banking some of his stuff so that he could like add more layers to things, and like he would periodically like bring that first loop back all as one on one pad so he could add it was almost too much, but it was crazy to see like the effort being made and like the layers that he was able to put into the RC505 is a really cool piece of equipment that I just don't think got the attention it deserved for a lot longer than it should have.
Yeah, it's been a staple for a long time in my rig.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. The RC300, was it the RC? No, it was the 300. The RC300, the bigger foot one. It was a good piece of equipment. But, again, it was made for feet. And it had a lot going on that I didn't think it really needed, but that was just Boss for you. But I feel like we were getting really in the weeds. Sorry, y'all, for that. Let's get back to more of the format questions here, and we'll talk more technical stuff in the middle. Before we go more into the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on.
Okay.
And this first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
That was American Idiot.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever it came out.
Oh, shout out to Dad for that one.
Shout out to Dad.
Yeah.
But
no, that was a kind of a quintessential album for a lot of people.
I think so. My age.
Yeah. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to? So like you saw what was happening, got the tickets and went to it.
Yeah, that was what was the name of the venue? It's now the House of Blues in Boston. It was called the Avalon. It was a smaller club, and I saw Rise Against there.
Okay.
I forget the supporting acts, but yeah, I was getting a lot of elbows to the face.
Yep.
Being
is it a Rise Against
old or whatever? Yeah. But
you were right at elbow height.
Yep.
Okay. Hell yeah. Well, that's still a pretty rad show.
Yeah.
Are you from the East Coast originally? Okay.
Yeah, I'm from Massachusetts, and then I lived in Vermont for a long time.
Gotcha. When did you eventually come out here?
5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, like 2019.
Gotcha. What brought you this way? Just change of scenery?
Job opportunities, change of scenery. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey.
Skiing.
I guess that is true. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, that's glad to have you out here. And then before we officially get into more of you in the present day, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Maybe not a defining moment. I do say a lot that it's a compulsion. It's not a hobby. It's gonna happen, one way or the other. So it was probably like after college where, I play in my room every day. And, my friends are like, dude, you should perform, or you should do something.
You gotta get out there with it. Yeah.
So it was really my friends that were like, you gotta book a show, or like you should make an Instagram or do something. Cause I was just content kind of.
Yeah. Just doing it.
So.
No, I dig that. Well, shout out to your friends for that. I definitely, when I was younger, I could not understand the concept of people just making music in their space and letting that be the end of it. It was such I remember when I was younger, getting into me for a second, I guess, sorry. There was this guy I went over to, it was one of my family friends. We went over to his house And this dude had the coolest guitar rig. Like he had a really nice Jackson. He had a great pedal board, super cool half stack. Like I don't remember, like unfortunately I was a little younger, so I can't remember the brands of everything, but like thinking of it now, it was all like boutique pedals. I think it was like a Kiesel amp, or not Kiesel, Diesel, sorry. Like it was just something where you were like, this is an insane rig that anyone,
a month of your paycheck.
Oh, right? I mean, this was like a year of paychecks worth. Like it was such a nice setup. And I was just like, oh man, I didn't know you played, dude. Like, what band are you in? He's like, I'm not. And I'm just like, oh, well, do you make music? Do you perform? He's like, no, I just like to play, man. I just play at home by myself. And I couldn't put the pieces together. I was like,
the goal.
I was like, why do you have such nice stuff for your house? And now as a much older person and having lived through much of music now, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it. But yeah, when I was younger, I could not put those pieces together.
Yeah, it's a lot different when you're doing it for fun versus trying to do it for a paycheck, right? Or for a goal in mind.
Like to reach a wider audience for a multitude of reasons. So, but that little bit of me. Now we're going to get back into you, and we're going to go ahead and get on more into the present day. We are going to get an easy one out of the way. How'd you pick the name?
The Bad Table. That was the rolling tray that my friends would roll up doobies on.
Oh, okay.
Gathering around the Bad Table. And that kind of, it was originally when I started performing, I went by Pat Finn and the Bad Table because I was like trying to sound like it was a band. I was like, this sounds like a ska band or something.
See, you could have pulled that off because the looper could have been the Bad Table.
Well, that's what it was. Yeah. I literally I had a children's school desk that I had the 505 on and was like hunched over, over this thing. So that's how I performed for a long time.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's cool to know because that is one of this name in particular is one I've just been kind of stewing. I always try to like think of the reasons, and I always like to break down the names a little bit. And that was one where I just could not for the life of me come up with any kind of direction for it. But it's a really cool name. It's obviously easy to spell. It's easy to remember. It is a cool name, and it looks good even like written down. But it just I could not figure out the origin for the life of me.
I get asked a lot why, like, well, what's the name? Like what?
Yeah, it is. It's a good one. It's thought provoking to say the least. But it's definitely a super cool name. And now let's go ahead and let's get on into more of your writing process.
Okay.
And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
A lot of times it's starting with a loop. That's how I've written for a long time. And so I'll build layers off that. Maybe it's a guitar part or something on the piano. I'll do exercises sometimes on Sunday morning. I'll play like some gospel stuff on the piano or whatever. Or
I thought you just meant like the chromatic do.
But I'd start with a lot of different ways. Sometimes I would go to a record store and just pick $3 records and try and pick a couple samples out that I like and make a song from that. I feel like the more ways you have to start something, the better off you are.
Oh, very much so. That and just in the realm of music that you exist in, kind of the variety is really the spice of the experience, because it's just you're like being able to pull from so many things, the art of putting it together and then somehow keeping it in the vein of like cohesive to reflect your sound.
Right.
Is
keep
part
it in
of the
your own
craft
style.
itself. Yeah. Still being able to have people hear it and be like, oh, I know exactly who this is. Like that is kind of a touch in its own way. And then I guess once you get more into it, how do you, because this is something I've always had the hardest time understanding for like people who do like looping styles of music. How do you decide like what is like a recurring element? Like how do you make it a song you bring back and like give a name to?
Yeah. So if I'm this is where it starts to deviate. Like if I'm writing and recording a song
Mm-hmm.
and it's going into a DAW, right? That's way easier to kind of throw a bunch of shit at the wall
Mm-hmm.
and start to work on your composition after. But I'll usually jam for like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, okay, I like this motif or I like this section, and I'll kind of build a song that way. And then if I'm performing, it's way more of like, what are people dancing to? Like, oh, they like this bass line. Like, I'm going to cut that out, make a new breakdown, and then bring that back, you know?
Interesting.
So that's a lot more of like reading the crowd and then trying to figure out what works kind of in the moment.
Okay, cool. And I have to ask, just because you are in the realm of the production sides of things, what DAW do you use?
Ableton.
Perfect. We don't have to edit that in later then. This show is all Ableton as well. Big fan. And then I guess once you get a track finished being made, so like, you got it done, you've got it kind of dialed in. I guess in your realm it kind of exists all as like one more like modular process.
More fluid, yeah.
How long does it usually take you to feel comfortable enough to perform a track? Or is it really just like with your process of performing, is it just so fluid that you're just kind of making everything in real time for that instance?
It's probably that, closer to that, where I'll even like record. I might write like a blues song that's like complete. And then I'll take it and resample it or like use stems for like a live performance. So it's always like, sometimes in a live performance, I'm playing like a produced track, or sometimes I'm like recreating pieces of a work in progress kind of on the fly.
Yeah.
So it's definitely fluid.
Okay, hell yeah, I dig that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super excited to see how your process works in real time in a few weeks from when this comes out at the next Jambox Presents. And I am super excited to see how that plays out. And everybody else will get to watch it in the following month. So that'll be really cool. But now I want to take a moment and I want to talk about your music a little bit. So I hopped on ye old Spotify, and you've got a decent amount of music going all the way back to 2021 on there. And, it's all spread out amongst those 3 albums. And you have a really cool sound. Like it's very open. It's very expansive. The textures are all really cool. Like it's organic without feeling like overly loose or chaotic. And I'm glad that you brought him up earlier, because it's right in my notes here. It is Pretty Lights-esque.
Yeah.
But not like I hear it and I'm just like, oh, this is just Pretty Lights. Like it has some of the like elements that I really enjoyed about his sound, but your arrangements are all very unique. Your like introduction of other samples, the way that you kind of put things together, it does feel very like intentional. It does feel very much like you. And it, in your own way, it has, there's a really cool like progression to the albums, which I really appreciated. I thought that like you had kind of a like, because I checked out all 3 of them, and I really did. I liked the jump between control strategies and identifying devices.
That was a big level up.
Yeah, that like it was very noticeable. And then even going into your most recent album, Extended Period Simulation Past, it's super cool. Like there's, each album kind of has its own feel. Each album has its own delivery. But your most recent one, just right from the first track, which A Wizard Is Never Late is such a great name.
Thank you.
Big fan. I just thought it was really interesting. Like the drums and the piano and the vocals and like the super slippery bass, like it grabs you in such an interesting way. And then it just makes the rest of it like really desirable to listen to. And like I was listening to it before you came over here, and it all comes together really well. And your like intention to the space, your intention to the beats, your attention to like every sound and the way that it kind of balances. There's a cool journey in your music that I really enjoyed.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. But I am kind of curious to know, and again, just based on your answer, I could see if this is maybe an odd one for answer wise, but do you have any tracks of yours that you can like name that you like enjoy performing?
The best performing tracks. listless, I usually like to perform. That's more of like a slower backseat vibe that kind of ramps up towards the end to like a heavier bass. That usually goes over pretty well. And honestly, like live performance, a lot of it is improv. So I'll usually save maybe like 2 to 3 to 4 like produced tracks that I will like play along to or like pick sections out of, but most of it is just kind of
it's all in real time.
Stuff.
Hell yeah, I dig that.
But yeah, I'd say listless is probably my favorite to play out.
Oh yeah. And then this is just one more technical question before we get back into the regular format here. When you're live, is it how are you doing like the extra layers of things? Like, are you doing kind of the Mark Ribley approach again with like the laptop in addition to the looper, or do you have like another like sample device, or do you just have it built into the 505?
A lot of the stems are built into the 505. So on any like, the save slot, I usually have a drum break. And then maybe some, might be hip hop acapellas. It might be like some samples that I really like, or it might be stems from produced songs. And then I'll layer, I have a synthesizer. It's a Korg mini log.
Okay. Oh, hell yeah.
And a roll-in drum machine. And then
which one?
And then my guitar, it's the TR-8S.
Okay, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Man, this is a cool rig.
It is a cool rig.
Yeah.
So that's the full spread. And then I'll kind of, set an example with the sample and then riff off that. Do
you bring it all into one mixer before like taking it to the house, or do you like just give them a bunch of outs?
It usually all goes into the drum machine because I have some master effects on that. So
gotcha.
Like chop it up or...
Which makes sense. The TR-8S is great for that.
Yeah. So everything goes into the drum machine and then stereo out to the front of house.
Gotcha. Okay, I dig that. Well, again, sorry everybody for the technical questions. It's just you've entered into my nerd realm of knowledgeability, so I just had to get those answered for me. But getting back to it, is there any music right now that you're listening to that you're like finding inspiration in at the moment?
You mean like modern stuff?
Yeah, I mean just in general. What are you listening to now outside of the music you make to like find inspiration?
Yeah, I've been doing a couple, like in the last couple months, I've been listening to like local bands and mostly friends, but like flipping their songs. So like folks like Flying Caravan or Bodhi Mojo or Kuera.
Oh, Bodhi Mojo is a good name.
Bodhi Mojo is a good name.
Yeah.
But so like I'll take their songs and kind of like play around with them in the studio, and that can definitely be inspiring.
Hell yeah, I dig that. And now before we move into the next part, this next question is probably the densest question in the interview. Well, we talked about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions, but when it's just you and music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
That's a deep question. It's definitely like a release, right? Like I have a day job, and to kind of decompress, and it's really like the flow state, right? Is what you shoot for, especially in like an improvising, the type of music that I make. It's very much like getting into that zone, and it's almost like you have blinders on, right? Like there's nothing else going on. So
gotcha. So in a way, it's almost like your sand garden.
It is, yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions. And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one is pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Anyone that's alive. I mean, it'd be awesome to work with like a really cool visual artist like Jonathan Singer, or I don't know, like Android Jones or something. But I'm assuming that question was directed more music.
You technically no. So it can be anybody. But now I am kind of curious, who would you want to go towards musically?
Musically? I don't know. Maybe like
Damon Albarn. No.
Maybe like Adam Deitch or like some really dope drummer.
Yeah.
I think that would elevate my music a lot.
That would be cool. And I think that's such a gray area on like how much instrumentation you want to like bring in when it's something where it's supposed to be a little more like fluid and instantaneous. But like a real drummer.
Hits nice. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a group that was just on the show recently, Camp Crush. Shout out to Camp Crush, where they are a duo, and the main lady, she does like keys and vocals and things like that, and then the other guy does drums, and it's just a really cool experience. Like big fan.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, please. It's here in your episode now, so please when you're watching this, give them a listen and let me know what you think. But then, getting back to the questions, subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Oh man, there's a lot of talented folks. I just dropped a bunch of names, of folks that I'll like sample or like play around with, and a lot of folks are friends. But to actually like collaborate and work on something new, it'd probably be that same crew.
Okay. Well, more I mean, like, who's somebody that like maybe you haven't interacted with yet, but you would like want to make the connection with?
Oh, I don't know. Whoever wants to work with me.
Fair enough. Well, everybody, you know what to do. At people in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen. And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world,
whoa,
and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, is guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show. And it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
There's probably some crazy options that I could do, but one of the coolest spots I've been to, there's an abandoned like radar station in Vermont. And that was the first thing that popped into my head.
I mean,
that's I want to play
a cool
on top
answer.
of that.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, everybody, you know what to do.
Don't go there.
That would be rad. All right, and then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
Probably Quincy Jones, or yeah, I'll stick with that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, then with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and June?
June? Well, I'm getting married in June.
Happy early wedding.
Thank you.
Congratulations. There we go.
Let's see. Bodhi Mojo, they throw a festival every year in June, Mojo Family Fest. I'm usually involved in one way or another there. Definitely looking forward to that. We got our showcase coming up.
Yeah, January 18th.
And I've been sitting on, you mentioned extended period simulation past. I've been sitting on the second half of that for almost a year now.
Oh, okay. Is that one going to be called Present?
Future.
Oh, damn. I knew it was going to be one or the other. I decided to go with the one I felt.
But that might be coming out soon. I'm still on the fence.
Can you do like a remix album where you have like a bunch of other people remix them and then make that the present one?
Maybe.
Whoa. Okay. Sorry. I had to leave that here. Please, if you end up doing that, let me know.
I will.
But yeah, please. You were saying.
No, those are the big things that might be coming out in the near future, but no other shows right now. I'll be booking for late winter, springtime.
Gotcha.
So if anyone wants to book a show with me, let me know.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to all of that. For this next one, why don't you go ahead and look straight at your camera, tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me on Spotify, SoundCloud, Instagram. It's The Bad Table on all of them. I'm pretty bad at social media, but, look me up.
Hell yeah. I'm in the same boat. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
No, local bands, like I said, Bodhi Mojo, Flying Caravan, Kuera. super talented friends, homies. So look them up.
Hell yeah. All right. Then with that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a bit of a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
Deep cut. Everyone should know. One of the most interesting pieces of music that I've ever heard was, it's a group, I think they're out of France, called Igor.
Ooh.
Okay. Listen to their first album. I think it's called Sinus. It's like Baroque, opera, electronic, metal. It's insane.
Damn. I know the name. I just don't know the sound when I hear it. So definitely gonna need to visit that again if I haven't already. But that is a super cool rec. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. But with that being said, we're gonna go and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm the Bad Table.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.